The very beginning of this video, I just need to let you all know, I didn't realize for about 5 to 6 minutes of this video, unfortunately, I did not realize that my mic was not plugged in. So we're gonna be listening to some awful audio that is from my camera before we get to the mic. So just stay tuned, just bear it out with me. We'll get back to the better audio before you know it. I finally finished the Ruby Franke docuseries on Hulu, and boy, do I have some things to say, to the point where I may break this up into several different videos because there's several different topics that I want to talk about from this series alone. The first thing I want to say is I didn't like it. I did not like the lack of accountability from Kevin, and that the people who put the docuseries together, the way that they asked questions, I feel like there were so many questions left unanswered and Kevin gets away scot-free. However, they did put in some things that I feel like left things open to interpretation. Like they did talk about how Sherry wrote Kevin and he ended up leaving her on red and then blocking her number. We're gonna talk about him in another one, but in this one, okay, I wanna talk about the whole possession and paranormal side of this docuseries because it was so uncomfortable to watch and so weird, and I feel like we got to talk about this today. And there's a point that I want to bring up that I've seen other people bring up as well that I feel is very, very important to talk about. So if you don't know, Hulu released a docuseries about Ruby Franke, and this series is good in the sense that it shows a lot of footage that we haven't seen. Kevin said he gave them over 1,000 hours of unseen footage, so we do see footage that Ruby never wanted to have out there. I cannot help but feel like Kevin picked through it before he gave it to them. So there is that one clip of Ruby grabbing E by the face and like pulling her down, and like Kevin's like saying cut to the person who edits their videos, because they did have an editor, I found that out, you know, saying cut, don't put this in the footage. So I mean, we see right there Kevin helped hide Ruby's behavior because he was there when she did that. Like if my husband ever grabbed my son like that, we would have a big problem. The docuseries shows a lot of footage that we haven't seen, so it was good in that sense. I feel like Kevin got away with some stuff. But anyways, the Jodi Hildebrandt portion of this docuseries, when she comes into the picture, things get so disturbing. So they talk about how, you know, Jodi Hildebrandt really liked to break up relationships and marriages. She liked marriages to fail because she didn't have anybody for herself. I mean, she has this huge house like way out into the desert, and let me say, this house I find to be so freaking ugly.
Walk through. They still have a Ring camera. This is creepy. This is like traumatizing. Hopefully we don't get in trouble. I just need to see the trauma. It's actually such a beautiful home. You think this gate's locked? He said, you think this gate's locked? This is disgusting. This is just heart-sickening. This is so sick. This is so gross and sickening.
It looks like a prison. There's not a tree in sight, which I get it. That's Utah. Utah is really pretty, but I couldn't live there because I need a little bit of like greenery in my life. It looks like a freaking prison, and I guess it was, right? So she lived in this house alone prior to Ruby and her children moving in there for a while, but she lived in this massive house alone. And it had like a panic room and a huge like serial killer style basement. Like this place is massive and uglier than sin. I think it looks cold. I think it looks empty. I see no love there, no personality, no pictures on the walls. There's just nothing. Like this is the home right here of an evil woman. And you know what? Maybe she went a little bit crazy living in this huge house out in the middle of nowhere by herself for so long because nobody loved her because she's a piece of shit. Anyway, so Jodi Hildebrandt was notorious for breaking up relationships, breaking up families, And she successfully did that with Ruby's family. She ended up getting Ruby to kick Kevin out, and then Chad, her son, was kicked out. Sherry was already moved out. And then she took the 2 older girls that were left and moved them in with somebody else so that they could take E and R back to Jodi Hildebrandt's house and do all of the horrific things that she did to them there. But prior to them going there, prior to Kevin being kicked out, Jodi Hildebrandt moved in because there were some weird things they said that was going on with her, where she was struggling with demon possession. So she, like, during the day was like preaching on Zoom calls, and then at night was possessed by demons. And there's some footage. I'll have to show that to you all right here, and I'm sorry in advance because it's very cringy, but just watch this.
Jodi would go into these possessed trances. And she would start speaking in other voices.
She's not. She's not. She knows.
And Ruby believed that it was meant to be, that me and her were meant to help Jodi overcome this.
Now, this is the point that I have seen other people bring up on social media that I feel like is just, it's just so telling. So Kevin talked about how they would try and exorcise the demons out of Jodi Hildebrandt at night. And they also talked about how there was paranormal stuff happening in the house that they couldn't explain. And there was just this weird vibe, probably because of freaking weirdos that lived in there. And so Kevin and Ruby would try and cast the demons out of Jodi Hildebrandt, right? But then it got to the point where they'd be up all night doing it and exhausted, which this is just so creepy to me that this was going on. It is so disturbing and weird to me. Like, these people are in religious psychosis and it's disturbing. Oh my God. Anyway, so it gets to the point where Ruby's like, hey, Kevin, I'm going to need you to stay out of here. And I'm going to actually sleep in this room that used to be my daughter Sherry's room. I'm going to sleep in this room with Jodi at night and just cast the demons out of her all night long. We're just going to be hanging out in the bed, casting demons out of each other, if you know what I mean. And so Kevin's like, okay, fine. Because I'm like complicit and compliant in everything. And whatever you say goes. And I let you run the house and abuse our children and do whatever you want to do. So I'll just go ahead and, you know, head over here into the room before you kick me out for good. Go have fun with your new girlfriend. And so Ruby starts staying in the room with Jodi Hildebrandt while all night long she's doing this. Sarcastic. Freaking weirdos. Like, imagine that this is how you act at night, but then during the day you're like, you need to live in truth. You need to live in truth. Your children are walking zombies. Absolutely no self-awareness. Like, these people are in religious psychosis and it's actually scary. So anyways, the point that I've seen people bring up is that it's interesting that Ruby gave Jodi a really nice room, had it set up all nice for her, and would sleep in there with her to comfort her all night long during her demon possession. But her kids that she claimed was possessed,
right now. No, you throw them on the ground and you start rolling them. You get a blanket and you start hitting the flames. And they're going to say, you're hurting me. You're beating me. You're controlling. It's like, no, dear, hold still. I'm getting the fire out. That's what a loving parent does.
those she had to do all of this horrific stuff to get those demons out. And honestly, reading her journal, she was going to keep going until they died. Like, she was gonna go until they were no longer here. And when he left the house and went and rang the doorbell of that neighbor, he saved their lives. He saved their lives. Everybody who was holding Ruby accountable and commenting and sharing and making videos about this before the authorities were paying attention to it, thank you for doing that. There were so many people out here who were bringing awareness to this and talking about Ruby and Jodi. I used to see videos on it. People were talking about this a long time ago. People were talking about this for a long time before R escaped and before the authorities got involved. And they were talking about how they're unwell. Look at the stuff that they're preaching in this connections thing. Like, this is not normal. Like Ruby on there being like, they're zombies and you gotta beat the fire out of them. But Jodi, I'm gonna all night long to get the demons out of her. I tell you what, some of y'all were claiming had a love affair going on. I saw those comments back when I was doing videos on this in the beginning. I could see it too. I just didn't want to say anything. Like, as a bisexual woman, Jodi is gay as hell. Coming from a bisexual woman, that woman is not straight. And I think that she fell in love with Ruby and wanted her all to herself. That's what I think. And I think Ruby fell for it. And honestly, I'm scared for when Ruby gets out of prison. Like, there's actually this new photo of her that came out of her. It looks like they're doing like a little praying session with somebody in there. And it's like, she looks at peace. She's probably still in religious psychosis. She thinks that, you know, all the demons out there are trying to pull her family apart. There was a hearing where she came out and she blamed everything on R. She said that he was being inappropriate with E and cousins and other people. And now because of that, R has been removed from homes with children and isn't allowed to live with his siblings. She's trying to ruin his life from prison. And honestly, if any of that stuff did happen, it's because you're his parent. It's just, this woman is not well, and anybody who thinks that she's going to come out a changed woman is insane. And shame on Kevin, honestly, for, you know, coming out and saying he still loves her. At first I said I understand because of their history, but honestly, the more I thought about it, I don't actually understand, because if I found out somebody did that to my kid, I would have no love left in me for them. I would hope that there was a hell that they would burn in for doing that, honestly. So I take back what I said there, because once I sat with it, I was like, no, it's weird that he still loves her. And also the fact that Chad and Kevin were sitting together in this documentary and Chad was still calling her mom and saying he would have a relationship with her. The fact that Kevin came out and said that they were writing each other from prison. He won't tell us what's in the letters. The fact that Sherry is not sitting with her dad and refers to him as Kevin. He blocked her number when she said, I love and miss you. And he blocked her. We're going to talk about Kevin in another video. We're going to go over that. I don't have time to go over it today, but we are. So subscribe if you're not yet. If you guys want to see that video, I'll show some footage, and we have more to talk about with this docuseries. There's a lot to say the least. There is a lot to say, but I got to break it up because it's heavy topics. I can't talk about it for too long. It's too much. If you guys would like to check out my handmade jewelry that I sell over on my Etsy shop until all of my earrings are sold out, I am going to be shipping a free necklace, so definitely get your orders in if you haven't yet. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see y'all soon for another one.